Hello YouTube. In this video, I will be showing you guys exactly how to make 3 different budget tiers of your end game wands. So the first one is going to be the entry level, that'll cost you somewhere around 100x. Then there's the mid level, which will cost you somewhere around 10 to 15 div. Now this is a big jump from the entry level, but because wands are so deterministic and powerful in the end game, you can't really have a weaker wand above the entry level one. And then we will have the advanced expert level craft, which will cost you around like 20 to 25 div, but those will be giga wands, and all these crafts will be absolutely profitable. You will be able to craft them for the price that I set, and then you will be able to sell those for almost double, if not more than that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, all the trade links for all the bases you need to buy will be in the description, so that's so you don't make a mistake when you're buying the bases that you need to start crafting on. So go take a look at those if you want to do this along with me. Now, if you have any questions, if any part of any of this confuses any of you, feel free to write your question down in the comments. I read them all. There is no dumb question. There is no stupid question. There is nothing that I won't answer. So if you have any confusions, write them down and I will answer them. Alright, so starting with the entry level wand, you want to go ahead and grab yourself any magic base with the level of all spell skills of your choosing. So this will be for elemental wands only, so fire, cold, and lightning. Now, lightning plus 5 is expensive because that's more of a meta build. So for lightning, you can use plus 4 wands for this purpose. But for any other element, a plus 5 base will cost you around 15 to 30x. So that's not a problem. And then for the prefix, get any sort of damage gain as extra of the desired element that you want. So here, this is a plus 5 level of fire skills with damage gain as extra fire. Pretty simple. After that, you will need a few omens and ingredients before you can start crafting this. So you will need 1 omen of homogenizing exaltation, 1 omen of greater exaltation, 1 omen of dextral exaltation for suffixes, and 1 greater exalt. Combined with that, you will need a preserved jawbone, an omen of the liege, and a greater essence of sorcery. So all of these combined, including the base, will cost you a little under 100x at current prices. So with that being said, let's begin. You want to make your magic base into a rare using a greater essence of sorcery. This will guarantee spell damage on the prefix. So boom, there we go. Now we have 2 prefixes and 1 suffix. After that, you want to grab your homogenizing exalt, your greater exalt, and your suffix exalt, and you want to slam your wand. Now, before you do this, let's take a look at the modifiers that we currently have on the wand to see why the homogenizing exalt is going to work here. So, the tags on the wand that we have currently are damage gains extra fire, so damage, elemental, and fire, and we have fire spell skills, which is elemental, fire, caster, and gem. And since we're adding a suffix, the only other suffixes that have any sort of matching tags will be cast speed and 1 of the 2 crit mods. Now, since cast speed has a way higher rateage compared to the crit mods, you will always get 1 cast speed and 1 of the other 2 crits, unless you're super weirdly luck-based and you hit the 2 crits, which can happen, but majority of the time you will hit cast speed plus something else. So, why are we using a greater exalt? Well, a greater one just guarantees that we get above modifier level 35 for mods, so that will guarantee anywhere between tier 4 to tier 1 cast speed, along with tier 3 and above crit chance, or tier 3 and above crit damage. Simple. Now you can use perfect exalts if you for some reason want to at the entry level, but that only really guarantees you tier 2 and above for crit, and tier 3 and above for cast speed, which is not necessary at all, ever. Almost. So, with that being said, now we will slam the greater exalt. Make sure you have your omens selected. Don't make a mistake by having these not selected. Slam the wand, and let's see what we get. So here we got tier 3 crit chance and tier 3 cast speed, both on the higher end of the roll ranges, which is pretty nice. And then the next step would be activate your omen of the liege and use your preserved jawbone. There's only 1 open prefix, so that's the only place where this can go. And now we will go over to the Well of Souls and see what we unveil. Now the unveil step here is fully deterministic, so you don't need to use any reroll omens. You will always hit the mod that you want, given you might hit a lower roll range on it, but you will still hit it. This guy never shuts up. Anyway, grab your wand, slap it in there, click reveal, and now you will hit elemental damage every single time, just about every single time. Because the Amanamu Omen that we used is guaranteed to give you one of these three modifiers: spell damage, elemental damage, or spell damage with spells that cost life. The first one you can't hit, because this spell damage mod is exclusive with this spell damage mod. And since we already put this on with the essence, this one can no longer roll on the item. And anyway, we hit the elemental damage, and boom, toss your wand in, and the craft is done. And there we go. There's your wand. It has tier 1 elemental damage, tier 3 spell damage, tier 2 gain, cast speed, fire skills, and crit chance. Now, if we go over here and we take a look at what wands like this on trade are currently worth, there's only 66 of them, and these start at 3 div for a wand like this, and this one is worse than ours. It has lower cast speed, and it has crit damage, and it has gains extra lightning instead of gains extra fire. So keep that in mind. Now obviously these might not sell for 3 div because this craft is very, very common. This is just for you to basically either craft your own wands, or maybe you can sell this for 1 div, because even 1 div is super profitable. A div is 400x, and we spent 100 to craft this. So that's your beginner wand, and now over to the intermediate ones. So for the intermediate crafts, you want to go ahead and get yourself a lot of bases, because we are going to be using the Recombinator. So if you don't know what that is, or if you want to learn more about it, I have a full video on my channel from 0.2 where I fully break down everything about it and how to use it. But TLDR, it just combines 2 different items into one item, and you can select which mod you want on both of those items, and you have a chance for that to work or a chance that it doesn't work and both of your items just break. Okay, with that being said, you want to go ahead and get yourself 1 base with damage gain as extra lightning. Other mods on this don't matter at all. You just want to get damage gain as extra lightning on a Dueling Wand base. We are going to be making this for the meta builds, so Dueling Wand is what you will need. And the other base, you want to go ahead and grab yourself any base with a low tier suffix modifier. Now that can be low tier freeze buildup, intelligence, crit damage, life on kill, cast speed, whatever. It just has to be a very low tier of it, and that's it. Because if I grab a few wands here, let's start with 5 each and go over to the Recombinator, we can see that if I put in the damage gain is extra wand and the other one over here, oh, that's not the right one. There we go. So if I select, oh, that's not a right mod. If I select this one over here, which is tier 5 life per enemy killed, along with tier 1 damage gain is extra lightning, we have a 50.75% chance for this to succeed. And then we will have a base that has this on the prefix and this on the suffix, and then you can continue with the rest of the craft. And we will need a lot of these because this craft has a little bit of RNG for the first step before you can proceed with the other steps. So, with this being said, you can use an Omen of Recombination to make this a lucky craft, which basically means it will roll this chance twice, which roughly makes this around a 70-ish% chance for success. But these are around 32 eggs, so if you want to go through the hassle of buying more bases, you can. This gain is extra base will cost you around 10 to 15 eggs, and this base will cost you around 5 eggs to get a random Dueling Wand. Item level 81, both of them have to be item level 81 and above. Nothing below. Can be above, can be below. That being said, I will be using Lucky Omens because I don't want to go constantly loading into people's hideouts and trying to buy these. So I'm going to turn all of these on. And let's see how many we get. Ideally, you want to get as many of these. Now you can cancel out this long animation. So we failed one. Let's go for another one. You can cancel the animation by just turning it off and back on. We got one base, get a few more, and I'll go ahead and I'll recom all of my bases, and I'll come back when I am done with it. All right, so out of 9 bases, I hit 5 of them. I accidentally bought 2 of the wrong base, so that's just irrelevant. So 5 bases now with gain as extra lightning on the prefix and a random trash suffix. What do we do now? Well, first you want to use an Omen of Dextral Crystallization combined with an Essence of the Abyss to remove that suffix. Now this essence combined with this Omen is a very safe and easy, cheap annul for any item that doesn't have any other modifiers in that slot. So if you only care about your prefixes and you don't care about the suffix at all, you can use this, and vice versa, same thing. So activate the Omen, grab your essence, slam it, and then just do this for every single base. There we go. Now we have a mark of the Abyssal Lord on all of these. Now do remember that just because you removed a suffix doesn't mean the essence is guaranteed to add a suffix. It's a suffix here, prefix here, suffix here, prefix here. So it's like almost 50-50. Right, but it doesn't matter where the mod lands because now comes the RNG part. So we are going to be using an Omen of Homogenizing Exaltation combined with a Dextral Exalt to try to hit lightning spell skill gems on the suffix. So if you see here, damage gain as extra lightning has damage, elemental, and lightning. That is the same as percent increased lightning damage. However, the difference between the two is percent increased lightning can always hit lightning spell skills when you use a homogenizing exalt. That is not the case with gain as extra. With gain as extra, you can hit any of the elemental skill gem levels. But that's going to be okay because of something I'll mention afterwards. But the thing to decide here is, should you use a greater exalt or a perfect one? A greater gives you the chance to hit 3, 4, or 5, and a perfect gives you the chance to hit only 4 or 5, but the chances are still super low, and perfect exalts are way too expensive to be slamming randomly like this on a base that's not too expensive so far. So I recommend using a greater exalt, and the reason why it's okay to hit any of the other elemental types is because, again, these bases are super cheap to make in comparison to getting percent increased lightning damage on this. That's why this is in the intermediate version. So you will be RNGing these bases, hoping to hit +5 lightning and not +4 or +3, and not +4 or +3 of any of the other elemental types. And even if you have hit +4 or 5 of the other elements, you can still make it work. So here I had +5, very lucky. And here, not so lucky, but that's okay. And then we hit +3 on the other one, which also, again, unlucky. +5 again. This is super lucky, by the way. This is not supposed to happen this easily. And then +3 on the other one again. So when you do this yourself, you will need to bulk prepare quite a bunch of wands. But again, preparing like 20 of these wands will be cheaper than preparing 1% increased lightning damage wand, which is going to be just way, way out of budget for the intermediate version. All right, so we hit +5 on 2 of our 5 bases. Now the other bases hit the other skill gems and they all hit badly. So those are bricks. All of those go straight back into the graveyard. Bye-bye. But now we have 2 bases, and now we're going to be continuing on both of these. All right, so here we are in the Well of Souls for the next step. So if your Mark of the Abyssal Lord landed on the suffix, you will be doing what I'm about to show you now. But if it landed on the prefix, I fished out one of the bricked bases from earlier, and I will show as an example what you're supposed to do if your mark lands on the prefix. Either way, the steps are the same and the final item is still going to be the same. Prefix mod is better, but don't worry about that. Okay, so first of all, since we have the Mark of the Abyssal Lord on the suffix, we want to unveil this first. Now, why is that? That is because if you see here, if we homogenizing exalt it right now, we are basically guaranteed to hit cast speed, right? It has a higher rateage, it's more common, has more tiers, it's probably most likely going to hit this instead of one of the crit mods, right? So that's bad, right? Because if we hit cast speed with our homogenizing exalt, then the unveil is even less likely to hit crit chance because these already have a low weightage. Your unveil is going to hit some diarrhea garbage like mana regen, life on kill, or some stupid stuff. So that's why we're going to unveil cast speed first, and then homogenizing exalt the suffix to get one of the good crit mods. That's why we are doing it this way. So go over here, get your item, slam it with a bone, boom, put it in here, and we will be using an Abyssal Echoes because we're kind of spending a decent amount so far. So here, Echoes, and we want to hit cast speed, not this cast speed, better cast speed. We did not hit better cast speed on either of those. So that's a good thing. I was hoping for this. So what do you do now? Well, you can either Omen of Light this if you want to, or you can sell this base to someone else and let them do all the hard work. Let them craft their own thing. Since this is all bad, just grab whatever. I'm going to take intelligence because it literally doesn't matter. Toss it away. And then we're going to work on the second base and hopefully we get cast speed over there. Give me that. Give me. Thank you. Alright, so next base. Wait, I have to bone it. Bone. Here. Echoes. Reveal. Please give me cast speed. Didn't give me cast speed on the first one again. Give me cast speed. Didn't give me cast speed on the second one either. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same rolls except for int. So, unfortunate. But in this case, now you have no choice. If you somehow bricked all of the bases that you had, or if you only had one or two, like I did, then you will need to use an Omen of Light. So let's quickly do this. This is supposed to be a higher end craft. Now it doesn't matter. Both of these bases are the exact same. Let's just do this one. Bye bye bad mod. And then you want to bone this again. This time you don't have the bone mod here. So now I actually don't need the other one. I can show you right here. So since it didn't hit something good, we had to remove it. Now we can just completely ditch using the bone on the suffix and we can just use it on the prefix later because that's better anyway. So for the suffixes now, you want to grab a greater exalt, you want to grab your dexter exalt, and you want to grab your homogenizing omen, and then you want to greater exalt the suffix. Now you're going to ask me, why shouldn't we use a perfect exalt? Well, same thing again as the other base. A perfect exalt just guarantees you one tier more, and honestly for the middle tier craft, I wouldn't recommend going that far, but you can. I actually will just because I feel like it, but you can decide this for yourself. If you don't want to go too heavy, you can go for a greater exalt. This is literally like 1/4 the price of the overall craft if you use a greater versus a perfect, but honestly, just do whatever feels right to you. Okay, so suffix, greater, homogenizing, boom. So we hit tier 3 cast speed anyway, and then we hit tier 2 crit damage bonus. So the perfect exalt didn't do jack diddly do. But anyway, the suffixes are done. Now what do you do for the prefixes? Well, you have two options. Okay, you can either go for a greater exalt, double slam on the prefix, or you go for a single slam on the prefix with an homogenizing exalt, obviously. So what are both of those outcomes going to do for you? Well, if we go over here again and we see, if we check out the tags on the item currently, we have crit chance for spells or crit bonus. Both of those have caster crit, cast speed, which is caster speed, gem levels, which is elemental, lightning, and caster, all that good stuff, and then damage, elemental, and lightning. Because of these mods, the only things we can hit are going to be one of the percent damages. My cat's being a bit fussy, so if you hear him, I apologize. So yeah, percent lightning can be one of the things you hit. You can hit percent spell damage, or you can hit the bad mod, which is going to be spell damage and mana. Right? This is the mod that you really, really, really don't want to hit. So what do you do then? Well, you, ideally, what I would recommend is you should homogenize the exalt single on the prefix, and then you get your final modifier using the jawbone instead. Because if you hit spell damage or if you hit anything really, you can basically guarantee getting yourself the equivalent of tier 3% lightning damage, because 74 to 89 is the equivalent of tier 3 lightning damage. This is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? And getting that is super huge. So that's why I'm going to do this that way. We don't need to use any prefix exalts because the only open slots here are prefixes. So grab your homogeneous exalt, grab your greater. Again, you can use perfects. Same argument. If you want to spend more, go for a perfect. Want to spend less, go for a greater. I don't really like the modifiers on the suffixes. If you hit tier 1s, or like at least double tier 2 on your suffix, then use a perfect on the prefix. Otherwise, don't bother. So hopefully here, the best thing to see would be high spell damage. Boom. We got tier 1, gain is extra cold. Honestly, second best thing that could have happened. So the next step now is going to be to use an Omen of the Liege combined with a Jawbone. This is going to guarantee you get an Amanamu modifier, and if you're not unlucky, in the 1 and 3, you should hit it, and you should still use a reroll Omen just in case you get unlucky with this, because you don't want to use an Omen of Light at this final step, which is supposed to be the easiest one. Alright, got my Basilicos, so Omen of the Liege, Bone, boom, there we go. And now activate your reroll Omen, and hopefully we hit a high roll of the elemental damage. So there is gain as extra fire here, but you don't need that. If you are a blood mage, you can go for this, but why would you when you have 82% increased elemental damage right there staring you in the face? I'm going to take that. Thank you very much. And there you go, your wand is done. This is a +5 wand, cast speed, crit damage, elemental damage, damage gain is extra lightning, and damage gain is extra cold on a Dueling Wand base. How much did we spend to craft this? We used 1 perfect exalt for no goddamn reason. We used 3 homogenizing omens if you count the omen that you used to get the lightning spell skills. We used 1 grid exalt, and we did have to use 1 omen of light. Overall though, this was roughly a 5 to 10 div craft, even if you got super unlucky with the omen of lights and the bases. So 5 to 7 div to craft this. Now let's see how much I can sell this for. Alright, so here we go. This is basically the kind of wand we made. It is double gain, level of all lightning skills, crit damage bonus, cast speed, and elemental damage. And this is 25 divs, 17 hours ago. And then this is just obscene. No one's going to buy that one. No one's going to buy these. These are just overpriced for no reason because these are single socket bases. I don't know what these guys are thinking. But this base right here, 25 div, I don't think this will sell for 25, but it'll easily sell for around 20, maybe like upper 15s, pretty easily. So that's it for the intermediate craft. And now we're going to go over to the advanced craft, which is going to be a little bit intense. Alright, so for the advanced or expert wands, you want to go ahead and grab yourself percent increase lightning damage bases this time. So the reason for this is that percent increased lightning damage is way stronger and more desirable than just even tier 1 of gain is extra lightning. Okay, so you want to get minimum tier 2 increased lightning damage. Now the reason why we can't get this on the intermediate craft is because these wand bases alone are like 100 to 200x just for percent increased lightning damage and a bunch of other garbage on this. Okay, so that combined with the same trash bases, you want to make sure that the suffix mods here are as low tier as possible to give yourself the highest chances as possible, because you really don't want to go and lose these bases because the cost that you're putting in for these bases is pretty high. So I'm going to recom these 3. If I miss, I'll get some more, but I'll be right back. Okay, so out of those 3 bases, I hit 1 of them, and now comes the same step as the intermediate one. We're going to be using a dextral crystallization with an essence of the abyss. Now we really want that cast speed to go away and become a prefix mark, but even if it doesn't hit the prefix, we will omen of light that and then bone the prefix manually. So here we go. Suffix mark, it's whatever. We're going to have to omen of light that later on. But now comes the annoying part, because I'm out of gold. I can't really make more bases currently. So I'm really hoping that I get lucky here and I don't have to go find a castaway map for more gold. Okay, so same as the intermediate again, we will be using that lightning tagged prefix to try to hit lightning skill gems on the suffix. Now, the reason that gain is extra gave us other spells, as I mentioned earlier, was because that's not exclusive. But if you hit increased elemental damage of a certain type, you are guaranteed to only get skill gem levels of that particular type. So here, I'm going to be using a perfect exalt because I really want this base to hit. It has a better chance to hit +5 than the greater one, even though this is like 50,000 times the price. But here we go. Wish me luck. Boom. Well, that's unfortunate. This is now a +4 base. It's whatever. It hurts. It's pain. It's agony. But there is something you can do to save this base, and that is a YOLO annul. So there's a YOLO annul. If it hits the lightning spell skills, then you just try to homogenize this again. If this does not hit that, then, well, the base is bricked and you have to go again. So boom. And then another annul, 50-50. Please remove the skill gems. All right, there we go. At least I saved the base and I can go again on this base. But I will need more gold to get another perfect exalt. So I'll be right back. Alright, so now that we have our lightning damage and our lightning spell skills, now comes the fun part. So we are going to be perfect exalt slamming these suffixes again because we want the best possible chance to get those cast speed and crit mods the highest possible tier. Now, if you get lucky and you hit double tier 1, that's huge. Double tier 2 is nice. Just hopefully no tier 3s. So, homogenizing, double exalt, suffix exalt, perfect exalt, please tier 1s. That's not tier 1. That's double tier 2. I'll take it. It's not tier 3. At least it's double tier 2. And it is high rolled on double tier 2. I'll take it. Take it. That's good. So the next step now is pretty annoying. If you look over here, we can see that the current tags on the item will allow us to either hit any of the gain as extras or spell damage or mana on the prefix with an homogenizing exalt. So if we hit spell damage plus mana, we are very sad. We're very sad. It's super sad. But if we hit gain as extra lightning or spell damage, we're super, super happy. So if we do hit something bad, like the hybrid mana, then we will be using an Omen of Whittling, which will get expensive, but we will use that with a greater chaos to remove that. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. So we use Perfect Exalt, Homogeneous Exalt, and hopefully we hit high spell damage. Boom. I really hit the mana, huh? I really hit the mana. I really hit the mana. Well, that's okay. That's good, because now I can showcase what to do if you hit mana. Alright, hi, it's the next day now. I have gold, I have more omens, but before I continue with the craft, I just want to quickly show that the two wands that I made, both of the early game wand and the intermediate wand, they both sold. That's the 1 div one, and that's the 20 div one. You can even go over here and check in the trade history. You can look at the exact item. This is the one that I made in the intermediate version, sold for 20 div, made it for like around 5 to 6. And then the other one made this for around 100x and sold it for 1 div. So 300x profit over there and like 15 div profit right over here. So earnings, I also sold a Prism of Belief, but let's just ignore that and take all of our juicy earnings and slam them right into the stash. But anyway, all right, to continue on with the craft, I accidentally stopped recording and I did reroll the hybrid spell damage mana once, and I rerolled it into mana, so I have to do it again anyway. So the way to do this would be you have to use an Omen of Whittling to reroll the modifier with a Chaos Orb. But if you do it just with that, it will take off one of your suffixes because it might have a similar modifier level to the mana or whatever you rolled on the prefix. So in that case, you have to use an Omen of Sinistral Erasure as well and then check, and then it'll show you that it's going to take off mana. It won't take off lightning damage because that's the other modifier that was already on the item. You don't have to think too much on that because it will always show you what it's going to remove before removing it. If it's showing you two different modifiers in like light yellow, that means it's going to remove one of them 50-50. So if it shows you that, then you can't do it. But if it shows you this, you can. The other thing to consider is, do you want to use a perfect chaos or a greater chaos? Well, greater chaos is like 50x, perfect is like 800x. So it's up to you. A perfect just guarantees you get a high tier mod. A regular one can give you a lower one. If you're spending this much anyway, you might as well go for the perfect because you don't want to be in a permanent cycle of rerolling this. You want to ideally do this once. I got super unlucky that I got mana after rerolling hybrid mana. I could have gotten any of the gain as extras or spell damage, just spell damage, but I didn't. So I have to do this again. So hopefully now this is not going to give me another tier of mana because it can reroll the same mod again. So if you have hybrid and you reroll, it can just roll another tier of hybrid or mana. So in this case, I don't want those two. Please give me gain is extra, any gain is extra, or spell damage. Please. Prage. It gave me tier 1 mana. It gave me tier 1 mana. Well, this might be the best one for Archmage characters. Any Archmages? Well, time to go again. Okay, so I actually don't have enough gold to buy the Omens again and the Chaos Orb again. So let's just pretend like that mana doesn't exist and that's like something good. Because I'm just going to move on to the next step because I don't really have time to do this more. This is Sunday, and then I won't have a couple of days to record on Monday and Tuesday, and then this will get super late and that bad. So here, next step. Now, usually you want to use an Ancient Jawbone on this step because that'll just save you a bunch of currency on the Omen of Lights. But since I have the disgusting tier 1 mana on there, I'm not going to use an Ancient Jawbone. I'm just going to use a regular one. I'm going to try to sell this off for some minor lost retention. But for you, you hopefully won't get obscenely unlucky on this, and hopefully you'll have more gold because in the end, even after all that unluckiness, you will still profit around 10 to 15 div regardless, purely because of the fact that these wands are just super annoying to make because other people are also getting super unlucky with the hybrids and they can't really reroll the hybrid safely. Well, so you use a desecrated jawbone, a preserved jawbone, put it in, reroll Omen, and hopefully we don't get unlucky here too and we hit some high tier spell damage. Well, there is spell damage, but that's not high enough tier. Do I take that? Do I take this? Or do I reroll this once? I've already had so much unluckiness. Ideally, I want more spell damage. This is not enough. Come on. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay, not super unlucky. The hybrid mana is back to haunt me, but got 85% spell damage. So in the end, even though the mana mod is super unlucky and super bad, and I could have rerolled that again. If I did reroll the mana mod into gain as extra lightning, and then I used the jawbone, this could have been like a 60 div wand. Now this is like a 25 to 30 div wand. Still good, but as you can see, it could have been way better. But there you go. Your wand is done. Let's quickly take a look at these stats and see how much they're worth. All right, so here we're looking at the items, and you can see that the wand that we've made with around 80% spell damage and around 100% lightning damage over here is around 50 to 60, but these do have damage gain as extras. They don't have the depressing mana mod on them. That's why this mine will be worth less. However, ours does have crit damage, and crit damage is way more valuable than crit chance for blood mages running this setup. So I do believe that even though there's the mana mod on there, I can still potentially sell this for a 50 div wand, which hilariously enough still puts me in overall green. So the overall cost of this, even after the unluckiness, so the double perfect chaos that I use along with the double omens, that entire thing was 8 div per click. So that's 16 div. The base cost me around 3 to 4 div to get the lightning damage with spell skills base after all the rerolls, the recoms and the perfect exalts. So that's around 21 div. And then we slammed 2 more perfect exalts to get the suffixes and the 1 prefix. So that is another 4 div each. That's 8 div. That is around 30-ish div, let's say. So 30 div investment and 50 div sale. If I didn't have the dumbass mana mod, again, this could have been an 80 to 90 div one, which would have been a 50 to 60 div profit. But I hope you guys get the point. So that was crafting wands of all different budget tiers and actually selling them too, as you saw me mention earlier. So it's pretty simple, but I do have to mention one really important disclaimer. So the thing with the crafts in Path of Exile 2 currently is because most of them are super deterministic, like especially the early game one and the intermediate one, they're so easy to do and hard to mess up. It's oftentimes just not super profitable if a lot of people start doing this. So right now, we can see that there's like 24 people selling wands like these, right? So if this video that I post right now gets like, I don't know, 1,000 views, right? And out of those 1,000 people, 100 of you try to make this level of wand. And if this goes from 24 to 124, let's say one of you makes it, you put it up for like 58, another one makes it, they put it at 57, 56, 55, 54. So the more people that make wands, the more the market gets supplied with wands, the lower the demand gets and the lower the price will get. So the lower the price gets, the lower your profit margins get, and you see the point, right? If this wand went down to like 40 div for a wand like this, I would hardly make anything. I spent like 26. I would get like roughly 10 div profit. And if I got super unlucky, it would have been even worse if I hit crit chance and not crit damage. But you get the overall point, right? So what do you do in that case if the crafting is too common, people are doing it too often? What do you do? Well, in that scenario, you just have to change something somewhere along the crafting process to make the entire cost of the craft cheaper. Because people will still buy these wands. People still want to buy these wands, right? But the way you increase your profit margin would be you can't raise the price because the price is coming down. So you have to lower the price of what you're spending to make it. And the way you'll do that is you either have to, if you remember here, if you go back to the actual wand base, we started with a % increase lightning damage base. Right now, these bases cost me around 100 to 200x each. So if I was to lower the cost of that base, if I went from tier 2% increase lightning to tier 3, which would be like a fraction of the cost, right? And if I buy a bunch of those, and instead of using a perfect exalt to hit +5, I buy a bunch of tier 3 lightnings, and I use greater exalts to hit my +5. It's a lower chance, but it's way lower investment. That way, the rest of the craft you can also do with greater exalts instead of perfect exalts. That will further reduce the cost of the craft significantly. And then you will still be able to make like 10 to 15, maybe even 20 div profit on these crafts without spending too much. So you can try that. But that's basically how you would do it. You would just adjust something. Maybe if the price of % increased lightning damage wands goes up way too high, you can just use the intermediate method instead to get the gain is extra lightning damage, and then you use the exalt in the final steps for the prefix to get % lightning damage that way, and then roll for spell damage on the desecration again that way. That's also an option, right? So it's up to you how you would do this. Just depends on the market prices. Now, at the time of recording, lightning damage wands weren't too expensive, so I went with that. But if this changes, just keep that in mind. Just had to let you guys know, because I don't want you guys to go ahead and do this craft and then realize that the entire profit margin has tanked so much, you make like 2 divs after spending that much time and effort and gold trying to do this. So with that being said, that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helped you understand how to craft wands, what the philosophy is for crafting wands in the end game, both for profit and for yourself. So if you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But that's going to be all from me. The next one is going to be all about focuses and maybe boots. I'll decide which one to go for. Bye-bye. And a huge shout out to all my patrons, Marcus, Axel Jacobs, Sebi2K, Bridgeburner. You guys are amazing. I can't thank you guys enough. Your support is so surreal. Just doesn't even seem real sometimes when I wake up in the morning. So thank you so much. As well as that one anonymous guy who doesn't want to be named. I know you. I think of you. Thank you too. Bye-bye.